Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Mental Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Mona, your mental gym buddy, and I'm super excited to have my first in person recording today with my guest, Linda. She's the founder of HUA Wellness, and they produce whole food based vitamins. Super important stuff that we're going to get into a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think just today's topic is going to be all about kind of the brain gut connection and how your gut can tell us so much about how your mind is doing.
You are now entering your mental gym. Take one deep breath, stretch your body, and let's get going.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first ever podcast
Love
feature.
it.
So I'm going to do my best, but I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And I think we always think about kind of the mental fitness as more of the brain health, but I think today we're really going to get into also that connection of mind body.
Super important.
Yeah. But I think to start things off, why don't you just introduce yourself and who are you, Linda?
Yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Linda. So I've been someone who's always been super ambitious and passionate about what I do. I'm also a chronic overachiever. I've suffered with that as well, but that's basically led me through a career in tech as a product manager, primarily in healthcare related industries like medical devices, health tech, telehealth, and dabble a little bit in like consumer spaces as well. So I've always been interested and fascinated by health. What's kind of ironic is that through working through these startups, it really took a toll on my health. I was super burnt out. I started having like physical manifestations of stress where I never experienced it before, but I had like insomnia. My heart was racing a lot of the times. I had heart palpitations basically. And last year I kind of reached a point where I think I need to prioritize my health again. And like this has kind of led me through this journey of establishing the company that I have now. And it's kind of about reconnecting with my own health journey and the experiences I had growing up. So my mom is a doctor. So growing up, she has always emphasized on nutrition, staying healthy, being very preventative about your health. So like doing things before you get sick, right? Which I don't think is really talked about. I mean, it is talked about, but it's hard to always practice, right? And all of that stuff I kind of took for granted and it like went out the window when I was, in my early 20s, hustling through these startups. I really like did not like remember those lessons and just like really focus on my career rather than my health. And then that led me to such burnout. So in this kind of journey of rediscovering health and reconnecting with my mom on like these lessons that she taught me, that kind of led me through the journey of establishing this company in the hopes of helping other people in their health journeys. And in my own journey, like I would say my mom is a very unique doctor. She has like a lot of, I would describe, tools in her toolbox. Like she's a medical doctor, so obviously, if I really sick, she would prescribe me medications. But for the most part, she, really emphasized on nutrition, and that includes supplementing when I need it, and like exercise and eating well, and then like practices from our Chinese heritage as well, like drinking herbal teas, like, I don't know. I just think it's a very fascinating blend of things that she would do as a doctor that is very unique. And I kind of wanted to bring that kind of values into a brand. And that's kind of the inspiration. And our vitamins are all whole food based because, just like eating whole foods is good for you, sourcing vitamins from whole foods is going to be better for your body to absorb, since that's like the natural state of foods that your body can recognize. So yeah,
that's a whole lot of things to dig into for sure. But honestly, like I'd never heard of like whole food based vitamins before I met you, obviously. So it's like for me, that's a super new concept of even thinking that even the stuff that you take as supplements can be
Yeah,
whole food
yeah.
based.
It's definitely not as common in the market. Most supplements in the market are synthetic or lab based. And we can go into like whether that's good or not. It's not necessarily bad, but it has like pros and cons.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the supplements in the market are synthetic, and most are not third party tested.
Yeah.
So you don't really know, even if they claim what it's in the label, you don't know if it's actually in there.
Right.
So it's very important in finding a brand like ours that's third party tested.
Yeah.
Reading through the website, making sure like they talk that, you know, it is third party tested, looking at the ingredient label
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah.
No, that's so important because like
Yeah.
coming to the US, it definitely feels like the wild west of supplements,
For sure.
and everybody's taking their
Yeah.
supplements. So I think just to
Yeah.
shift it kind of to
Yeah.
like the brain gut
Yeah.
connection today,
Yeah.
I would love to just kind of get your input of like, what do you think? Yeah, what are some things that we got to watch out in our gut?
Yeah, for sure. So your gut, you may not know this, but you have kind of a army of good bacteria in your gut that helps you in a number of ways. It helps you digest food, it helps with your immune system, right? It like, so this, it's really important to maintain the good bacteria in your gut so that you don't have digestive issues and you have you're just like generally healthy. Because if you have imbalances in your gut bacteria, like you have more bad bacteria compared to good bacteria, then you can have those GI issues as well as infections in the gut, where you can have UTIs or you can have vaginal infections.
Yeah.
So it's very important to keep your micro, biome balanced with good bacteria so that they help you fight those kind of bad bacteria so you don't get sick. And you just feel better.
Yeah, because there's so much happening in our gut, and I feel like we hear so much about like prebiotics, probiotics that should support exactly that microbiome system that you talked about. So I'm just always curious to like, what are pre and probiotics?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I get that a lot. So prebiotic, I would think of that as food for the good bacteria in your gut. So the probiotic refers to the actual bacteria, but the prebiotic, sorry, is like the food for the probiotic. So like fiber is a probiotic. So the gut, the bacteria in your gut, you need to feed it well so that it can grow and colonize basically your gut so that there's more good bacteria than bad bacteria in your gut. And also when it's well fed, it can be more effective in helping your body. So that's the difference.
Okay, so we kind of need those to, like you said, like the army of bacteria in our gut.
Yeah, and I would say like look into, if you're considering taking a probiotic, some probiotics like ours do contain prebiotics in the formulation, so you can get both.
Yeah. That's important. Okay, so it's like it's all connected, and I think especially if we talk about the mental side of things, because I think you touched upon how it's like you can have like what is GI again? I think you mentioned
gastrointestinal. So it's just like your digestive system, essentially.
Okay. Because I think for me, it's like I also kind of read on how also not having a good microbiome can like also stimulate like your anxiety, and it's just like a whole lot of things that happen.
Yeah. So we didn't even dive into this, but your gut is sometimes nicknamed your second brain or the little brain, because it has over 100 million neurons. So it is its own like nervous system that actually can function independently sometimes, and it like locally will kind of take care of things in your gut if there's some sort of imbalance or threat. It can kind of locally take care of the threat and like emit a response, but it can also tell it to the brain. So the gut is directly connected to the brain via what's called the vagus nerve.
Oh yeah.
So your gut can like send a signal immediately to your brain, like, hey, something's up. And that's why, like, if you've ever had a gut feeling, or you have like butterflies in your stomach,
Mm,
that's probably your gut, sending some signals to your brain so that you
yeah.
feel a certain type of way, but then you also feel it in your gut. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I've been a whole journey to like re-foster that trusting your gut kind of
Hmm.
sense. And
Right.
it is very interesting how your body can tell you like, hey, like
Right.
this
Yeah.
feels good, or like something's up and you
Right.
got to take
Yeah.
care of yourself
Yeah.
better in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
way.
Hmm.
Oh, it's super
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think for you, we touched on pre and probiotics and all of that. What are some other things that if we know like, okay,
Hmm.
something is not working as it should,
Hmm.
what are some things that we can do to take care of the gut a little bit better?
So I would say, in terms of taking care of your gut, um, the basic things, is like eat more fiber, eat whole foods, eat probiotic foods, foods that are rich in probiotics. So that would include things like yogurt, fermented foods, like
Okay.
kimchi, pickled things.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Um, so, but that's all what you're gonna hear.
Yeah, general
Um,
health
all
kind
the
of.
health things, and it can be hard to practice, right? Like, who's gonna eat perfectly all the time? I mean,
Yeah.
I try my best, but even being in this space, it's hard when you have certain lifestyle factors. Like, I'm running a company. If you have dietary issues, right, or you just don't like certain foods,
Yeah.
so it could be hard. But I would say, like, I think an easy way to start is just to really pay attention to what your body is telling you and being mindful. Like, I feel like I didn't really used to do that, but like I just been more conscious and aware of, like, when I put certain foods in my body, how I feel afterwards. A good example is, I love the classic instant ramen packs,
Classic. Yes.
so tasty,
Yeah.
especially the spicy ones. But I've noticed every time I eat them, I don't feel good after,
Mm,
so um I'm not going to limit myself from eating that. I'm still going to eat it once in a blue moon. But I think associating your that kind of awareness, like, oh, it's tasty, but it also has all these negative feelings associated with, like, oh, I probably will feel a little like nauseous or bloated after I eat this.
mm,
It's gonna better kind of train you to avoid processed foods, or foods that are bad for you. And if you on the other side of it is, like, when you eat foods that are good for you, you might notice, okay, I feel more energy, or I
yeah.
feel like I'm not getting sick as often, just like kind of paying attention to what your body is telling you. And I think it's like hard to really notice that sometimes, but I think once you have an awareness, then you can start to see, like, okay, like, it's easier to just know what to eat and not eat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's such a good thing. I think
yeah.
I talk about that a lot, like being
Hmm.
more mindful of what's
Right.
happening in your body, what are you feeling? And
Right.
I think it always sounds so like, yeah, just pay attention to yourself.
Right.
Sounds so easy, but it's
Right.
actually really hard to do that
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
practice that like
Right.
checking in with yourself.
Right.
So I've also noticed myself like yeah, just having that short second after you finish a meal, like
Right.
I tend to just get up and clean it right away.
Right.
And just taking a second to be like, oh, what's happening right now?
Right.
Am I feeling like, ugh?
Yeah.
Or is it like,
Yeah.
Or is it
Yeah.
like, how
Yeah.
satisfied do you
Mhm.
feel after a meal? I think that can already really start.
Right. Yeah. Like, the instant ramen, it's so tasty in the moment, but
Mm,
then after like 10 minutes of eating it, I'm still hungry.
yeah.
I'm still hungry, and like I don't feel the best after,
Yeah.
like um so yeah, I think it is paying attention to yourself, and I get that it's hard, but I don't know, like, I think maybe I'm unique in this, but when I don't feel good a certain type of way, I don't like that I feel that way.
Mm,
So in my mind, I think I'm a natural problem solver. So I'm trying to think, like, okay, like, what did I do today?
yeah.
What did I put in my body to make me feel this way? And sometimes it's out of your, maybe you don't know, right?
Mm,
You don't
There are
always,
off days too.
there are
It's
just
like
off days, right? But
menstruating people here.
exactly,
It's like,
exactly. But sometimes it's like, okay, like I probably didn't sleep enough last night, or like
yeah.
I ate this thing. So, but I think building that awareness makes you feel like you have a bit more control over your health. And
Totally.
that's the most important, right?
Yeah.
Like that you feel like this is your body, that you can have, what's the word I'm looking for? You have agency over your body.
Yes.
That's the word. Yeah,
Agency.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I think that's really important
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, for sure. And I think a general question I always have with supplements, like I think you already touched a little bit on like
Hmm.
how you found for yourself,
Hmm.
like it's so important to have like that whole food
Hmm.
element in it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think I'm always cautious to be like, I think coming to the US, like people are
Hmm.
very into their supplements. And like
Hmm.
sometimes I see on Instagram, like I saw a
Yeah.
post this morning, somebody is
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, it takes me half an hour to take all of my supplements. And I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
that's too much.
I don't see how that would take you that long. Yeah.
Yeah, but like she had a whole row and then like some
Okay.
liquid and some other
Yeah.
things. So how do you propose
Yeah.
to actually go about, like if you're thinking of like you feel like okay, you have that
Right.
awareness, something's missing, what
Hmm.
would you say, like what's a good way to take like a step to be like, okay, how could I
Yeah.
approach supplements, I guess?
Yeah. I think like treat it as a tool for you to use, that can be helpful,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't have to take every supplement there is. There is a gazillion of
Yeah.
them, right?
Seriously.
You want to know about what your personal needs are, what you can get from your diet, what you cannot get from your diet. So it's very personal, I think.
Yeah.
It's depending on what you have. But personally, for me, I do kind of take it kind of saying like, I kind of feel what I'm feeling in my body. And then
Hmm.
I try to see if there's something that I could take to kind of address that issue.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I feel tired, I already normally take my multivitamins.
Hmm.
But in those instances, I will definitely take a multivitamin because our multivitamin specifically has a lot of B vitamins in it, and B
Hmm.
vitamins is a vitamin you need for energy.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll kind of like take that when I feel a little, just like a little tired and I need a
Yeah.
little boost. And I find that it helps me. And then similarly at night, if I've had like a really stressful day, I want to unwind, then I might take, a glass of the magnesium powder,
Mm.
and make a drink out of it to kind of de-stress. So I think, yeah, it's about listening to your body and seeing what you need. And you can be intentional about it. I know, like, some people, and I do this sometimes too, if you're going to a function later that day where you might be drinking or like eating certain foods that you might be more sensitive to, like in those cases I might try to take a probiotic in the morning with my
Ah,
breakfast, because there is research that probiotic can help your body digest things like alcohol and kind of filter out the toxins,
right.
right? So that you absorb less of the toxins in your body and help it kind of flush through your system better.
Yeah.
So just like things like that, if you want to know what you're kind of doing, what you might just want a little boost of.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to be like preachy about, oh, you got to take supplements. It really depends on your personal life. And you always want to prioritize nutrition, but like the name suggests, it is supplementary, right?
Yeah.
Like it is like an enhancement to what you're already doing. And let's be real, like if you're stressed out and you want to take some magnesium or whatever to like calm down, there are, you can find magnesium naturally in your greens and your nuts.
Mm.
But before bed, when I'm not hungry, I'm not going to eat like a salad for the sake of,
Yeah. Yeah.
eating
Yeah.
salad. So
Totally.
sometimes you want like a dose of that particular, nutrient to
Yeah.
feel the effects, that it's hard to get by just eating a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
and I think what is also not well known is that the nutritional density of our foods have changed a lot over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So have you heard about how the soil have been depleted over time?
Yeah.
And there's also climate change ramifications in food, where so carbon dioxide is something that plants consume as food,
Yeah.
right? They take up carbon dioxide in the air. They release like oxygen, like trees do that.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's a lot more carbon dioxide in the air now compared to 100 years ago, plants are basically growing faster because there's more food for them.
Okay.
They're growing at a faster rate, so even though they may look bigger, they may not be as nutrient dense because it still takes time for plants to
Oh,
soak
to
up
actually.
the nutrients from the soil. And then you have the added issue of like, well, soil has been depleted of nutrients over the years too. So nowadays sometimes it's not a huge issue in that you can still get everything you need primarily from eating whole foods,
Mm-hmm.
if you are consistent about it. So it's not like we need to panic about it, but
Yeah.
it is true that foods have kind of reduced in the density of nutrients.
Okay.
So you basically have to eat more carrots, for
For
example,
the
than
same.
somebody did 100 years ago to get the same amount of nutrients.
I had no idea.
The farm sourced, where they grow it.
Mm-hmm.
Certain farms have made sure that their soil is more nutrient dense by
Okay.
doing certain rotational practices. Like, I'm not an expert in farming, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
definitely farms that
That they can do
are
that. Yeah.
more aware and try to grow things more organically.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody has access to like eating organic all the time,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Yeah.
so I think there definitely is a place for supplements when it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it certainly, I think, is an enhancement for my life.
Yeah.
It's kind of an people call it kind of a extra insurance, right?
Right.
To make sure that if you're not already doing it, it kind of fills in the gaps if you
Yeah.
haven't.
No, I love that you recognize that it is a supplement. It is
Right.
something that
It's
you.
literally the name.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's
exactly.
never supposed to replace anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest maybe misconception about Americans being
Mm,
obsessed with supplements, that like, oh, this is gonna like fix everything.
silver bullet.
Um,
Yeah.
if I just eat supplements and not do anything else.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to use supplements like that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to use supplements to enhance what you're already doing, from a lifestyle
Yeah.
perspective.
So
Mhm.
important. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for me, like my journey with supplements has been
Mhm.
kind of more. I also did a blood test actually to tell
Okay.
me. I did it with Inside Tracker,
Okay.
not a plug, but like they were super good in telling
Uh-huh.
me exactly what I could enhance and what I could use.
Okay.
So I think that's also
Yeah.
another path,
Any
like to
interesting results you got from that?
it was super interesting. I think
Okay.
not just supplement basis, but really like my iron was super high,
Oh,
which I
okay.
think not a lot of women have actually. So for
Yeah,
me, that
yeah.
had like a lot of like birth control impacts.
Right.
And there I actually had to be careful with the supplements I take because they
Mm.
have iron in them.
Yes,
So
yeah.
already having high iron and then
Right.
taking more supplements could be dangerous too.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I did end up taking like,
Saying,
yeah.
yeah. So I used to so I'm on birth control, but I
Mhm.
switched the version without iron for that reason.
Yeah, yeah, I think I
Um
just needed to bleed more. It's actually what the outcome was for me
oh,
because that's
okay.
where you lose your iron. That's
Yes.
why like most women have very low iron.
Correct. Yeah,
So,
anemia.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um and then our men's multivitamin, fun
Oh,
fact,
yeah.
does not have iron because it is more of an issue for women to lack iron and less of an issue for men,
Mhm.
because, you get your iron from
Mm.
red meat, so
Yeah.
men eat more meat and they don't likely have any iron issues as much
Also,
as
maybe I
women.
should take the men's then.
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, that is
very interesting.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but good to know, like with
Yeah.
supplements and everything. So
Yeah.
I think we touched on a lot of different
Right.
topics, not just the gut brain, but I
Uh-huh.
definitely loved what you said about pre and probiotics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll get more info on that in the show
Yeah.
notes and everything, some links for people to check out.
Yeah.
Definitely put your website in there
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
But
Of
it's
course.
been a pleasure to have you
Thank
on.
you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
If anyone's interested, you can find us at HUAWellness.com. That's HUA Wellness.com. That's also our Instagram and TikTok handle as well. So follow us there if you want to learn more. But yeah, everybody gets a 10% discount on their first order, lifetime guarantee. If you don't like the first order, you could get your money back. So yeah.
Very good. No,
Yeah.
they have good content there. She also has like female founder content,
I
which I
know.
love.
Yeah.
So
I'm working on it. I'm not a natural content person. So I'm like I don't know, like middle-ish millennial, not an elder, but like I'm definitely not as good as the Gen Z content creators. So
mm,
there's a lot of learning.
yeah, yeah, we're
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
learning here, even
Yeah.
with the podcast and everything. But yeah,
Hmm.
thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. Awesome.
And yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Definitely go check out HUA Wellness on all their socials. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun as my first podcast experience.
10 out of 10. Thank you.